Thank you. We want to thank God for our being here. We want to thank our producer. We want to thank our guests. We want to let them identify themselves. We thank God most of all because He is the all in all. But we're here today. We're still talking about black consciousness and the need for us, a black African-American family, to have a conversation within ourselves to overcome some of our difficulties. And I met this young lady, Sister Harris, here. She was out promoting her husband. But we got in a conversation about things in life in general, how the system that we live in impacts all people. And we all have some similar problems. And I pointed out before, I often try to say that our fight in this battle is not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places, which impacts the lives of all mankind. So I invited them today to share some of their views and some of their struggles that the system has impacted into their lives. So this is why we're here. It's not black or white. It's about the issue, and we all suffer.
Yes, we do. As he said, we met at McDonald's. I was actually here in Tuskegee campaigning for my husband, Bill Harris, who's going to be running for district, or is running for district attorney and in the primary, and we'll vote for him on March the 1st. And we got into a discussion about how, in fact, this really is people. And it's not about politics, and it's not black or white.
What's your name?
And my name is Deniece Harris.
Okay.
I actually live in Chambers County in Valley. Neighboring county, so we're neighbors here with Macon, and we have Macon, Chambers, Randolph, and Tallapoosa in the 5th Judicial Circuit. And us moving around and talking to people and campaigning, I've come to know that these other counties have the same problems that Macon County has. And you see this wherever you go. But each one of these counties begin to feel they're isolated and that that's only their problem, that their neighbor doesn't have the same problem that they have, when in fact they do.
And sometimes the judicial system is kind of handicapped by lack of money and other issues also. And you can't always get the best people because there's not a lot of money involved in it.
No, sir, I don't agree with that.
What do you think is the problem?
What I think the problem is, to be very honest, is lack of doing the best you can with what you have. It's about efficiency, it's about fairness, it's about honesty, and nobody's perfect. Our system is not perfect, and we are not perfect. But you have to step up to the plate and have that desire to make it be equal and the same for all people, for everybody, no matter what zip code you live in or what ethnicity or ethnical group that you belong to. This is about us as human beings. This is our world. We are neighbors here. It's about all of us.
I'm Ricky Price, Mr. Clements, and I appreciate y'all inviting me. Well, I will tell you, I was invited 2 minutes ago. I came down here with her, we had to go to Montgomery, Mr. Powell, we met with him, and I was sitting out in the lobby enjoying the company of a nice lady out there, and they eased out there and got me to come on here. I'm a 15-year law enforcement veteran, and then I went to work with a law firm for 20 years, doing investigations with civil matters. Now, I know y'all talking about the criminal element today, but I've been out of the criminal element about 22 years, so I dealt mostly with civil matters, have been involved in trials here in Macon County, civil and criminal. You know, Deniece mentioned something that's real interesting. I don't know what the budget is with law enforcement, but I do know with civil matters, you know, you have two-term courts every year, and that's 2 criminal and 2 civil terms, which is 20 days for each. And we didn't have that much trouble in civil matters because you've got the lawyers that brings the cases. And I've actually seen cases in poor counties where we would actually pay the court to pay the veneer to be there, the people that's chosen. You know, if you work for a law firm that's been successful, you can do that. Now the criminal people, you know, and Mr. Harris is running for district attorney, and people don't realize he is the people's attorney. You don't have to go hire a lawyer if somebody robs you or if somebody gives you a bad check. That's what him and his staff is for. Now, about their budget, I really don't know, but I'm gonna go ahead and pass it on to Mr. Clements.
Okay. Well, again, I'm Michael Clements. I be here every week, but I have a 35-year law enforcement background, and I agree with Ms. Harris that diligence is one of the most key factors involved in getting the court system to operate and run smoothly. I still have to say money plays a minor role, but it does play some type of role. You don't have the funds to house certain prisoners or pay certain people that's involved in the criminal justice system. But the diligence and the thoughtfulness is what the key factor to making everything successful. I mean, you could know that a situation is bad, okay? And you try to provide a jury that bad for this type of situation, you know. I mean, I wouldn't provide an all-female jury for a male that's accused of rape.
Well, I mean, I guess we can agree that there has been a systematic, and you know, this is the 50-year anniversary of Sammy Young.
Right.
And so, you know, I'm turning 50 years old this year, and it kind of disturbs me that we still have to worry about a judicial system that will do some of the things that is happening now. When they took the Sammy Young case over to Auburn, to Lee County, and they had an all-white jury to acquit the shopkeeper there. And we still have situations similar to that to this day.
Every day.
We still have this 50 years later. So this is my issue with it right now.
Right.
Because I have a 19-year-old son, and I thought that we had come so far that we have come past that. Now we've had Trayvon Martin, Eric Garner, all the Ferguson stuff.
Right.
And so I still got to worry about my son to this day, and I'm 50 years old.
Right.
When I was 19, I had to worry about this. So what are we going to do? This is why we're here. We're talking about this now because something's got to change. And clearly, because we have our guests here, this is not a black or white problem. This is a judicial system problem. This is systematic. So what do we do, y'all? What kind of solutions can we come up with?
You know, we're in a unique situation. She's from Valley, I'm from Lynette. There was a poll, well, some information came out from the FBI last week. Lynette is the number 3 crime riddle city in the state of Alabama. That is number 10 in this circuit. Now I'll say this, and I've dealt with this circuit since 1977. I think we got 3 of the best judges we've ever had. They push the cases through and all this, and I don't know what the issue is. I don't know whether it's a drug court, whether it's education or whatever, but I think it all starts at home too. I mean, you know, if my daddy kind of taught me there'll be a belt across that rump, you know.
Let me tell you, you're touching on something that we touch on every week.
Oh, really?
Right.
We touch on this every week, and we're going to take a break right now. And we're going to come back with some solutions to this. Thanks.
The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the participants and not necessarily those of Wallace Media, the City of Tuskegee, or this station.
Thank you, listening audience. We took a little brief break and you heard a lot of conversation here about our system, judicial system. I want to point one thing out. The judicial system works. And it works for people who know how to work the system. But you, the viewer, are a victim of the system as well. So if there is a solution, we have to have the conversation, which what we are doing today, to identify the problem. Well, we the people, I use that term, we the people have the solution within ourselves. But we have to put our hearts and minds in discussion, realize our commonalities, that we are all victims of a system that treats us unfairly, regardless of who we are or how much money we have. It treats us unfairly. To make that change, we the people must have this conversation across the board and unite our efforts to bring the change within the system. That's our power. If we continue as it is, it's our fault because the system works.
Let me ask you a question, Mr. Clements.
Okay.
You were in law enforcement do y'all have a problem with state inmates being here in the county jail and the county having to pay for the state inmates being here, like we do in Chambers County?
Well, no, we don't have a problem. I never had a problem during my tenure as law enforcement here in Macon County. The state supplements the cost of the care for the inmates, so the county actually gets money for.
You think it's a good fee that they pay?
It's reasonable.
Is it? Okay.
To me, in my opinion, you know,
Okay.
and there could be various opinions of different people, you know, but it helps out, you know, because when you got idle space there, it's not benefiting anybody, but when
Right.
you're using it through state inmates and everything, the state pays the county, and that helps them out, you know, because these days food bill and feed bills are astronomical, you know, and but thankfully gas is going down. That helps a little bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, here's something to consider. As it should be, and when you arrest a person, you are innocent and should be so until you are proven guilty
Proven
for
guilty.
everybody.
Right.
But when we have an arrest date, and 2 years later we have an indictment date, and 3 or 4 or 5 years later we have a trial date, until that trial date is executed, that person is not an inmate of the state. That person is an inmate of the county. And this county is thereby not receiving any subsidies from the state
Right.
for their food.
Until
So
these-
in addition to the fact that we have a constitutional right
Right.
to a speedy trial, they're now on the food bill of the county.
Right.
So it could also be said that it would be very difficult to calculate that. But how could that 5 years worth of food, or 3 years worth of food, or 2 years worth of food, if that money were paid back to the county from the state, that's gonna add to the county resources and thereby add to the budget that we're gonna talk about in a few minutes anyway.
So that should add to the quality
That
of
should
the
add to
services.
the quality of the services,
Gotcha.
if you will, if you wanna consider quality of services in jail.
That's an oxymoron, right?
Absolutely. But it would add back to the overall enforcement budget that would be available to a county. And remember, we're talking 4 counties here because we're neighbors. That could be a significant amount of money that came back to the 5th Judicial Circuit simply by expediting.
I see exactly what you're
The
saying.
trials.
If an inmate or if a defendant goes to court a lot faster, if we prosecute him within 1 year as opposed to 5 years, that's 4 years worth of
Upkeep,
upkeep that the county has to pay for, as
right?
opposed to letting the state pay for it. You know?
And the other side of that, if he is innocent, then he's released and he goes home on his own, stands on his own 2 feet,
Right.
and becomes hopefully a productive member of society once again.
Right.
And we're not holding him in a situation that's not going to allow him or her to succeed, because you can't do that very well in a jail cell.
But if he's lost 4 years laid up in jail cell and he's innocent, that's not right either.
How's he
That's
gonna-
true.
how is
That's
it-
true.
How is, and that's the offshoot of that, how
Right.
do you begin to quantify those types of losses?
Lost productivity and all that. And that brings me to a question. Pardon my ignorance, but if there's supposed to be the right to a speedy trial, how do we justify, I mean, what is it that takes so long to bring certain things to court? I mean, I really simply don't understand that.
Well, I certainly have an opinion.
And we'd be glad to hear it.
And in that opinion, I'm hoping that Mr. Clements can support me on this, because I don't have a law enforcement background. But first, I would say that beginning with the police officers, if their case is properly prepared,
Right.
when it gets to the district attorney's office, that's gonna move on through the system, and that's not gonna add to the backlog, number one. Number two, you've gotta have that district attorney that's willing to work with these police officers in the street and say, okay, here's what we gotta do, go get me this. And he said, oh, I've already got that. So this begins to run like a fine-tuned machine. Then we get our good judges, we put those on the docket, we set them for trial, and we get them through. And I think in many cases, if you guys do your good job,
Right.
we're not gonna have a trial, because they're gonna plead, or so we just get to bypass that altogether.
Right.
Now, if we don't have those things in place, and it begins to be sluggish, or we have a district attorney that doesn't ask, we've got a backlog here, let's have a special court session and get this over with. And we can pay for that with the money we've saved by speedy trials
Right.
for food for somebody sitting in court.
Right, but I'm saying, how do we reconcile it? I mean, if it's the DA's dragging his feet, how do you reconcile that with a right to a speedy trial? I mean,
You don't.
I mean, in some cases, this takes years. I mean, if there is a right to a speedy trial, then what is the recourse if you drag your feet? Seems to me that there should be something that could be done about that.
There should be something to be done, but let's say the system works according to the system. The system can make many excuses, but we have no public advocate, no community advocate that the court actually do what it's prescribed to do.
And in
We
many,
need that external force to force the court to do what it ought to do. The police department, the judicial system. We don't have those advocates out there on a lot of cases. People just left in limbo. And most of the community are afraid to go up against the judicial system,
I agree.
which we have a right
Yeah.
to do. So until we can have the conversation, as I said, begin to realize how these problems affect us all.
Yeah.
It's not gonna change, but we have to force the change, to make them look at what they're not doing.
you're
Mr.
right,
Clements?
and it's like Ms. Harris said, that a lot of it depends on the diligence involved, the diligence of the DA to want to prosecute this case, or the diligence of the officer to bring the proper evidence so the DA can have everything he needs to go ahead with it. If you dragging your feet on getting the case prepared, and it's going to drag along and going through the process smoothly and successfully. Now there's other external factors. That's not a big factor. Politics plays a lot of role in things
Well,
today,
Yeah.
which shouldn't, but it's
Well,
it's
pardon
part of life.
my being biased in it because I've never been in law enforcement, but I feel like sometimes, and this is just maybe, I know I'm not the only person that feels like this, but sometimes I feel like law enforcement will drag their feet because they feel like a particular suspect is guilty, and we'll just keep them in there as long as we can, and because they think that the system is broken, or because I've seen it all the time. The law enforcement, the people who are enforcing the law, and the people who go and prosecute these cases, it's just like on Law and Order. I mean, you still have two different groups, and sometimes they do collide.
It is, and we as law enforcement, and I'm just calling a spade because I tell it the way it is. We've had prisoners that have broken into people's houses over and over
Yeah.
and over again. They go to court, they get probation, okay? He gets out, breaks in 3 or 4 more houses. But there's a process involved, and you can't define it, but when a criminal breaks in somebody's house, he's probably broke into 10 or 15 houses before he got caught that one time. Okay, the next time he gets caught, he said, well, he's only did one crime. That's as far as what we know,
Yeah,
okay?
right.
Scratching the surface. That's right.
He's only did one crime. Oh, let him go, man. He just committed one crime. Just
I can speak of
Okay,
several
so
cases
now,
like that.
The next time he gets caught, he's probably committed about 30 more crimes, but only got caught twice.
But see, sometimes if these people get caught and they get a slap on the wrist like that after, like you said, several crimes that they don't get caught for, sometimes they escalate. Next time he's got a knife
There you go.
or something like that. So let's come up with some solutions in this next
got
segment.
escalations.
All right, we're gonna come back in this
Say one
next.
quick thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
As a police officer, I felt this way. When I made that arrest, and I handed that case to that district attorney, I'm finished. He got to do his job then. And if they non-prosecute it, fine, I did my job.
Right.
Gotcha. We'll be right back, y'all.
The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the participants and not necessarily those of Wallace Media, the City of Tuskegee, or this station.
Okay, a lot of things that are in place and solution-wise is already in place, and a lot of it, in my opinion, over 60% of the crimes that are created, occur, are done by juveniles, okay? The younger kids, younger people under the age of 25 are create most of the crime. And I'm in favor of, rehabilitation, which helps, stop them from repeating the repeated cycle of going over and over, doing the same thing over and over again, and basically that's my opinion on that. I don't have a lot of thought on it, because I've been a part of the system, and I know the system can work, and sometimes it don't, and a lot of people saying that the detention is based primarily because of lack of funds, not lack of money, But after you tried so long, then that's the next recourse, detention.
I think it all starts at home. Now, my daddy and mama taught me right from wrong, and I think I'm scared of my daddy today as I was when I was a kid. I think, it starts at home, and there's something wrong when somebody comes out to your property and tears it up, and he's done nobody any good. He's done himself no good, he did you no good, and he just enjoys it. I don't know whether, I'm thinking maybe more recreation, give them something to do, especially the juveniles you were talking about.
Right.
And in Lynette, it's the same way. 90% I think of our property crimes are juvenile crimes. And I do know, since the closure of Westmont Pepperell up in Chambers County, the lack of recreation and all that's been an issue. And that may be something to think about.
And I see that sometimes, isn't there like a certain time of day, like from 3 to like 8 or 9 o'clock p.m. when a lot of the juvenile crime takes place?
Right, we're having a lot late at night, which means their mom and daddy don't know where they are. Breaking in cars and breaking in homes and all. And I'm talking 11, 12. Y'all remember years ago on TV at 11 o'clock, it says 11 o'clock p.m. Do you know where your children are? Y'all remember that?
I remember that, oh yeah.
Curfews is a thought, it's not a complete solution to it, but sometimes curfews may take effect, hey, have kids in, a little earlier,
Well, I know that has worked in the past when they have crime waves and things that happen
You have
later.
a wave,
They have a
definitely think
curfew.
about that,
Haven't we had one here in Tuskegee before?
We had it back in the early 90s. The crime got real bad. I mean, we did have curfew, and we would impose it. You see a child out 10 o'clock at night, take him home to his parents. We wouldn't, hey, we're going to place you on arrest because you're out after 10 o'clock, but we would take them home to their parents,
My curfew was when the sun went down. You knew what time it was.
Right,
Ms. Harris?
Yeah, I agree completely with everything you said, but there are gonna be those people that slip through that.
Right.
So now how do we deal with them? Now, I know that Chambers County has the court referral program via the drug court, and I know that Macon, and I think Deborah Biggers here is just started that, your district court judge. Now, last Tuesday night, I went to a fundraiser for this. Calvin Milford is our local district judge that's over that. And we were able to sit there and hear testimony of these young people, 18, 19 to 25, and that is your group. And it was pretty much divided between male and female and black and white.
right.
So again, this is not an isolated problem. But they put them in this program, and they're drug tested, and they receive counseling. If they need inpatient, they get it. If they need continued outpatient, they get it. They're expected to hold a job. They're expected to not recommit. And this is, in fact, a very rigorous 2-year program. And I actually stood there, and this one young man, and he had dreads. His name is Demiquavius Hurd. And he was so proud of himself to stand in front of this group of 250 people, and he told his story. And it dawned on me as I watched him make the speech, this would have been a young man, had we put him into the prison system, he would have come out so damaged that I don't believe that rehabilitation probably would have been an option for him at that point in time. So if you go back and you build up your moral and your families, and then you take these that either make it through the system or that are already there, and you begin to put some meaningful rehabilitation in place for them. And beyond that point, you elect the right district attorney that begins to make sure that these people get through these systems, that are punished for what they do, or if they're innocent, they're turned loose. I think that those things are a good start to begin to fix the problem.
Right, and let me, before you pass on, that's a good point. You made a monumental point because what we underwent in the early 90s, we had a bad period. We had one year, we had about 15 homicides in one year for a small town. But now they're down to 3, 4 a year, which is normal. We just had an abnormal year during that time period. But we had what is called the intervention of gangs. You know, kids want to mimic what's going on in Los Angeles,
Right.
the Bloods, the Crips, what's California, the BGDs. They had all these kind of gangs coming to town, and our biggest problem was not so much as trying to house or detain prisoners or youthful offenders in prison, but by sending them to prison, they didn't get rehabilitated. They learned more.
Right.
They learned how to come out and be a
They learned a
better
career.
criminal.
Right.
Right. So hey, you know, Judge Ford, I think, was the judge during that time period, and he rethought sending kids to detention because it was basically a training ground. They were going to college, going to prisons, juvenile detention centers to learn how to steal cars. If you didn't know, learn how not to get caught, learn how to sell drugs, learn how to obtain rank in the gang system.
Wow.
Why I want to be a lieutenant? Well, you got to kill 2 or 3 people. We had a guy by the name of Moss. I won't say his first name because you know, but he killed a young lady, blew her head off one night at the local chicken restaurant. I went there. One of my officers, I was a sergeant at the time, had a female officer. She panicked. But if you saw it, it was very graphic, you know. And we finally caught up with the guy that committed the crime. And the reason why he did it because he was supposed to commit a robbery / murder, and he could become a lieutenant in the gang. And it's terrible, you know.
Wow.
So they learned this kind of stuff while at juvenile detention, reform school, so to speak, you know. So
Well, if a person has that big of a problem understanding right from wrong, maybe they really do need to be incarcerated.
some other kind of incarceration, incarceration. They need to develop a type of incarceration, not in regular population for a person that had that type of.
Because that almost reeks of psychopathy, really.
It's a psychotic type
Yeah.
of situation that you got going on.
Y'all pay attention to our website down here at the lower part of the screen.
Right.
I've been watching and I'm about to learn.
Oh yeah, Skiggy 181 at hotmail.com. If you have comments, input, feedback, anything for our forum, that is how you get in touch with us. Thank you all so much for watching, and we will check you all out on another episode next week of Black Consciousness Today. Goodbye.